Hey everybody, I'm Chef Tom with All Things Barbecue, and today we're making pork burn-ins. So you guys are probably familiar with burn-ins. They're that delicious piece of meat, those little cubes that come off of the point meat from the brisket. It's one of my favorite barbecue things to eat. Well, today we're gonna be doing that with pork. You see, pork butt, or the Boston butt pork shoulder, is very similar in texture to that point meat. We've got a lot of intramuscular fat in this cut, just like with the point. So what we're gonna try and do is recreate the burn-ins using pork. Well, the first thing we're gonna do is get our pork butt trimmed up. I'm gonna remove the fat cap because we wanna get down to the meat where we can get the smoke and the seasoning right into that meat. There's plenty of fat underneath the fat cap and running through the muscle to keep this nice and moist while it cooks. So we can get this out of the way to make sure that we can get the most flavor on this thing as possible. So I'm just cutting that white piece of fat down to where I see the red meat, and you guys can see the layer. This is the fat, this is the false cap, that's just a thin layer of muscle, and then another layer of fat underneath that. So we're gonna get all the way down underneath it. And we typically remove the fat cap anytime we're doing a pork shoulder like this. So anytime that I'm trimming a pork shoulder, I'm always going to run my hands over it to feel if there are any hard pieces sticking out. It looks like they've done a good job of trimming this, but it's not uncommon to catch some cartilage or even a little bit of bone that's been left behind. We are going to take off this excess fat anywhere we find it. And then the next thing we want to do is you'll find on this bone end, here's that blade, open up this crevice and trim out all the stuff from in between these muscles. So you can very gently slice. And these naturally just want to pull apart. And as a matter of fact, today, we're not cooking any sort of competition style barbecue. There's no rules that say we have to leave this intact. So to expedite the process, I'm just gonna follow this bone and cut it right in half. So now we've got the blade bone here and this smaller piece of meat. And with the bone in, it's gonna cook a little bit slower, but it's smaller, so it should cook even to our larger cut of meat. And now we've got all this stringy stuff, this fascia. It's just gonna be something you're chewing on later. And we'd rather have some rub on the meat rather than have that stringy stuff there. We got this pork all trimmed up, so now it's time for seasoning, and we're gonna be using our classic pork seasoning combination today, the Smoke on Wheels pork injection with Plowboy's Yardbird rub. All right, so I'm gonna go into the roast, create a little pocket, pump a little bit of injection in. You're always gonna have a little bit come back out at you, and that's all right. That's actually gonna act as a binder on the outside for the rub when we get to that point. I'm just working in a grid pattern to make sure that I get all of the space covered. All right, you can see we've pumped this thing up. It's holding a lot of liquid, which means it's gonna retain a lot of moisture. And in addition to that, we're getting all the flavor from this marinade, which in this case, it's got pineapple juice, there's some soy sauce. These are the flavors that really complement pork really well. And then here on this bone end, I just kind of have to work around the bone to find those pockets of meat where we can add a little bit extra flavor and moisture. Now we're just gonna hit all the surfaces with our Yardbird rub. We're not gonna go too heavy with this because we don't want it to be too salty, but we are gonna give it a good coating. The great thing about cutting this butt in half is now we have even more surface area to work with, and we can get more smoke penetration as we smoke this thing. Today we're going to be smoking our pork on the Weber Summit charcoal grill. It's a really cool grill. We're going to add some wood chunks to the charcoal so we get a really nice cherry wood flavor, and the color from that cherry wood is going to look great on the pork too. We're going to cinch down our airflow and let this thing ride at about 250 degrees today. All right, so we just closed the lid up, and as this thing comes back up to temperature, we're gonna adjust our airflow, so we're running at 250 to 275 today. But the really great thing about this Weber Summit charcoal grill is that it's not ceramic, so it doesn't hold so much heat, and you can easily adjust where you want your temperature to be. Now, as we get our airflow right, this smoke's gonna thin out, be nice, thin blue smoke, and we'll get a really beautiful smoke flavor on our pork today. We're about 2 hours into our smoke on our pork, and our initial chunks of wood that we put in there have burned all the way through. I want to add just a little bit more smoke, so we're going to throw a couple more chunks on the charcoal. We'll just move the grate aside for a moment. Got a couple more chunks of our kiln-dried Cattleman's Grill cherry wood. We throw those right over the hot coals and get our meat back on as quick as possible. One of the things you can do to make sure you're getting the best smoke flavor possible while you're cooking on this grill is every 45 minutes to an hour, open this guy up and burp it. See, that lets that old smoke out, and it clears the way for us to have new smoke that won't just sit and get stagnant and make your food bitter. But here we are about 3 hours into the smoke, and our pork's looking really beautiful on the outside. The color is awesome. The internal temperature is sitting at about 170 degrees Fahrenheit. And what I want to do now is pull it off of the smoker and dice it up. All right, so we're going to pull this bone out of here. As you can see, this isn't done cooking all the way yet because it doesn't pull out super easy. Now, we've yet to really break this down, so it's still really tough. But we're going to finish that cooking process while it's in the cubed form. You might even think this looks a little bit dry right now, but that's because all of that connective tissue hasn't broken down yet and that fat hasn't been able to melt out into the meat. We're going to see that in the next stage of cooking here. Check that out. So that is some of that stuff that is yet to break down. It's still really hard. This is fully cooked technically, but you wouldn't want to eat it just yet because it's a little bit tough. Now we're going to place this on some foil so that we can wrap this up and get these to braise down and get really tender. And you'll want to capture any juice that comes out of there so you can add it to the foil pack. I'm going to wrap this up nice and tight. All right, we'll throw this back on the grill to finish cooking. And at this point, I'm going to open up our airflow just a little bit. We can cook this a little hotter now that we're done smoking. I know a lot of you guys are cooking on pellet grills at home, so now would be the time to turn it up to about 350 degrees. This is 4 to 4.5 hours now into the cook, and these pieces are getting to where when you squeeze them, they want to fall apart, which means they're nice and tender. So we're going to remove these from the grill and sauce them up. All right, at this point, we're going to give these a toss, add some barbecue sauce to them, and I've opened that pit up so they can get nice and hot. I mean, if you're running at 375, 400, that's a good place to be. But we are going to tack the sauce up on the grill. But what we're saucing with today is Smoke on Wheels KC Bootleg. This is a really great sweet sauce. It's got some really interesting notes in it, though. You'll like the bourbon. There's some cola in there. Even a little bit of celery seed in there, which adds a really cool complexity. All right, so these are nicely sauced. You can see some of them are falling apart already, but a lot of them are holding together. That's our pork burnt end right there. What I want to do is stick this back on the cooker, let that sauce set up to the meat, and then we're going to be done. All right, there we have it. Sauce is tacked up nicely. Give that a little toss. And here we have some really tender, really beautiful pork burnt ends. That's fantastic. I love the smokiness. I mean, that's barbecue flavor. That's barbecue pork at its best. And in the form of a burnt end, can't beat it. Put those out on a platter at a party, and you just became everyone's best friend. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the subscribe button. And if you have any questions or comments, or there's anything you'd like to see me cook, let me know in the comment section down below. For more recipes, tips, and techniques, head over to thesauce.atbbq.com. All things barbecue, where barbecue legends are made.